All right, we've got some breaking news we're dealing with in the South Park area. A massive fire. This is at 7700 Liberty Road Drive. This is near South Park Mall.
And we are learning from Charlotte firefighters that this is a 3-alarm fire, meaning that it is so intense that they've got to triple their resources out here. And we can even see flames shooting from this building here. This is in South Park. And the color of the smoke signals the intensity of what's burning because it is dark and it is thick. This is happening in South Park right now. Firefighters are responding. You can see a crane up above. We're still working to confirm exactly what is on fire right now. We have crews headed that way. There's several businesses there in the area, including this is near Chris Steakhouse.
Yeah, right. What looks like right across the street. We're looking at maps right now, trying to figure out exactly what type of business. But this can be seen from miles. This is from our tower camera here out in West Charlotte. And again, this is happening South Park area. This is near the mall. This is not the mall. This is near the mall. But this is a massive fire this morning, and what did we say, a 3-alarm fire? A
3-alarm fire for right now. That does not mean that it won't be upgraded here shortly, but this fire burning very intense right now. The heat, you can see the flames, the smoke filling the air. There are probably a lot of people driving around the South Park area looking up, wondering what's happening here.
Yeah, and we know that traffic is already backed up on Fairview, which is a main area in Colony Drive near this area of the mall. We've got crews that are headed there now to find out exactly what's going on. If there's going to be any area that needs to be sort of quarantined off. We don't know what caused this, if it was an explosion, what kind of fire this is. Again, we don't know the business, but just look how tall. From as far away as this camera is, those flames are massive this morning as crews are going to continue to try to put this fire out. We don't know what type of building or business. Again, this is 7700 Liberty Row Drive, and we know that there are businesses, apartments. Chris Steakhouse is nearby. This is from our Arlington camera. It just gives you another view.
In South End. Just for some perspective, that's several miles apart. To this call, Charlotte firefighters put it out about 20 minutes ago that they were responding to initially what was a 2-alarm fire. Within minutes, that was upgraded. And that matters in how firefighters try to get this fire out. They certainly want to make sure everyone is out of that building. And really, our camera on top of the Hyatt South Park Hotel gives us the best view of the flames and the intensity here of what we're seeing. You can imagine the calls coming into 911 right now from people in the area seeing this fire, and if there are people in that building, trying to get them out, of course, an immediate priority when something like this happens.
Those flames are huge, and just looking at the map, again, this is 7700 Liberty Row Drive. There's a Chris Steakhouse. There are law firms nearby. This is kind of near Barclay Downs and Fairview, so traffic is building up there. There are banks nearby. Cafe 6100 is just catty corner from this. We don't know exactly what kind of building it is, but just again, from this view here, these flames are massive.
And in some of those buildings in South Park, you've got financial advisors, you've got a lot of different smaller businesses occupying a floor or two here, but it's quite certain that they're trying to get everyone out of whatever building is on fire right now.
We've got crews that are on the way there. We know that traffic is already backed up on Fairview, Barclay Downs, some of the surrounding area. If you are going to be headed to South Park Mall, this is not at the mall, by the way. This is near the mall. But if you were headed that way, I would not go there now. They're going to be, I'm sure, kind of roping off a lot of this section and diverting traffic so that firefighters, first responders can get in, and hopefully this was not a heavily populated building, whatever this may be.
But it is 9:30 in the morning. Businesses are starting to open for the day, so there are more people out and about right now. And it's been quite some time since we've seen a building like this on fire. Of course, we had the recycling plant fire just a couple of months ago, but it's been a while since we've seen a business or several businesses catch fire with this intensity.
These flames are growing. We haven't zoomed in on this image here. We've been sitting on this right now. Hang on, we're getting some information right now from our producer. Say that again, Sam.
Can you repeat that, Sam? And our producer's telling us that there are some power outages in the area, hundreds of customers without it, a couple of different angles here from cameras that we've got scattered around the city that give us an aerial view of the fire, and you can see just the intensity, the black smoke filling the sky over South Park.
We don't know what caused it. We don't know exactly what building specifically this is and what type of businesses, or if there were apartments, condos. It could be mixed use type of facility. We don't know exactly what type of building this is. We don't know how it started, if it was an explosion. We know in this area there's constant construction going on. We don't know if that had anything to do with it. But we do know it's a 3-alarm fire, so they're taking every precaution. Traffic starting to back up in this area as well.
And one of the concerns for firefighters when fighting a fire like this is do they take a defensive approach, because they don't want to risk any firefighters' lives trying to get inside. So they may very well fight this with water from a safe distance back. Because of the intensity, you run the risk of a potential collapse inside the building. So that is certainly something to think about. We do want to check in here. Julian, what are we seeing in terms of traffic backing up around the area already happening?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and pull up that speed map there. You can see it right there. The backups that we already have on Fairview Road, Park South Drive right there. I'm going to go ahead and pinpoint where exactly that fire is. It's right there where my arrow is marking, and you can already see the delays back there. The dark red meaning that road is pretty much impassable. We're also seeing it on Barclay Downs Road. Do want to also mention, we had a producer come in here say we have 3 crews on the way. They should be there by 10 a.m., but I'm going to zoom out right now to show you just how far the impacts are being felt. You can see again, Park South Drive right there. I'm going to go ahead and bring back out my arrow to show that. Tyvola Road, you're going to see those impacts there. Crews are trying to get there. More crews are certainly on the way. Sharon Road, we're also seeing delays north and southbound, both sides on Fairview Road. Again, that fire is right around here. And zooming out even further, just to show you, that's how far it's going to stretch. So big backups on Tyvola Road, heading northbound right there, both sides as you get closer to the fire. And Park South Drive, Sharon Road. Again, authorities are probably going to be asking you to stay out of that area so that way they can get to the scene as soon as possible. But that's where it is. So significant delays on the roadways there. Going to go ahead and push back in to show you where that is again for people just joining us. Right there as we zoom in there, right near Piedmont Road Drive and Fairview Road, that's where we're looking at that fire right there.
All right, Julian, now as we take this shot full screen now, every time we keep looking at this, Ann Wyatt, the flames continue to grow. This is a massive 3-alarm fire in the South Park area, just south of Charlotte. This is at 7700 Liberty Road Drive. This is not the mall. This is near the mall. We don't know what type of building complex this is, how many stories. We've got a couple of different crews that are headed there now to get more information. We don't know if this was an explosion. We don't know of construction. We don't know what caused this or if any people were in this building. We know that there are law firms, there are restaurants. The Ruth Chris Steakhouse is near this, if not across the street. There are apartments and condos there, and it is at 9:30, as you mentioned. This is right at the beginning of the business day, and so I hope that there were not too many people around when this started.
Absolutely. I've got the Duke Energy outage map pulled up. They're reporting about 1,100 customers in this area without power here. They don't know the cause. They're still working. Of course, power certainly not a priority right in this moment. The priority is to get this fire out and to make sure that everyone is okay and out of that building that is on fire. If you're just joining us, 9:38, this fire started within the last hour here in South Park. It is 3-alarm fire, meaning that Charlotte firefighters are tripling their resources to try to get this out. And Jason, the smoke, and look at that flame.
Look at this. It just continues to grow. This is not a shot that we're zooming in on. The flames are actually growing as we continue to speak. We've got about 1,600 that are without power. right now is what the Duke Energy map is showing us here. And so, you know, this certainly, you know, if you're dealing without power, they'll try to get it restored as quickly as possible. That is not the main concern right now. It is if any people were in this building when it caught fire, that they have all been taken to safety and that no one else is in harm's way. And as you mentioned, you know, from a firefighter's perspective, not that I am one, but you know, how do you fight this? Do you fight it defensively or offensively when you arrive?
And that's certainly something commanders on the scene are working through, and battalion chiefs right now. They've got almost every firefighter in the area responding to this in the immediate area. That is what a 3-alarm fire indicates. We're tripling our resources to try to get this out as safely as we can, and it takes your breath away when you see the intensity of this fire, and you just hope that everyone is out of that building here. So it's a lot to look at.
This is in the South Park area near South Park Mall. This is not South Park Mall. This is 7700 Liberty Road Drive. We do know that traffic is starting to back up on Fairview, which is nearby. 1,600 people without power. We don't know what kind of building this is. As we just watched, the flames are not only growing higher, they're spreading from right to left.
The side of that building.
The side, yeah, the whole side of this building for this 3-alarm fire. We've got crews that are on the way, and let's bring in meteorologist Andrew Brightman. I mean, this is something even from our station out in West Charlotte, you can see for miles.
Yeah, you can really see for miles, and a few things that we have going on. So first, you can see basically sort of the level that you see the smoke starting to rise, and then it really starts to catch the wind. One of the good things that we have going, at least in terms of this smoke that will keep rising, sometimes early in the morning you can have what's called an inversion, and then the smoke won't keep rising through the atmosphere. It looks like it's reaching a certain level and then sort of meeting with some of the winds that I was talking about earlier this morning. And I've sort of highlighted here with where we're going to be seeing this smoke blowing. And one of the things that we're worried about, sort of a secondary effect, is all downwind of all this smoke is that we're going to be seeing. Yes, it is on Max 1 up in the control room. A significant decrease in the air qualities. We look towards York, Montclair South, even towards the airport or just south of it, because right now the wind gusts are going to be out of the east at about 24 miles an hour. So that's going to be blowing all of that smoke off to the west. And again, we should at least, I've looked at some of the atmospheric or temperature profile, and basically means the smoke's going to keep rising through the atmosphere. Sometimes when we get those temperature inversions, the smoke can stay extremely close to the ground and it won't keep rising. But that's something I'm going to be watching for, at least weather-wise. But really everywhere across southwest portions of Charlotte and around the airport, farther off to the west of 485 outside of the loop, we're really going to see a major decrease in air quality. You definitely want to think about just avoiding going outside, as it really, this smoke is going to be dangerous for thousands of people sort of downwind of where this fire is occurring. And Wyatt and Jason.
All right, Andrew, we want to get to some video now that our Daniel Pierce is sharing from a friend who is in one of the buildings down there in South Park right now. You can see the reflection of her camera there, but it just shows a different angle. And you know that people who are down there right now are looking out their windows. This is not something that you see normally, and it's frightening to look at from afar, because you know first responders are trying to make sure everyone is out of that building and to put it out. And just since we've been on the air 12 minutes now with this fire, the smoke is getting darker and thicker, and the flames are shooting, feet in the air. It's hard for us to know exactly how high they are just from this camera perspective.
But it's spread. I mean, it's almost doubled from what we've seen as far as the flames.
You can see the water that one ladder truck is spraying on the building, and it's no fight for the intensity of the fire, that one hose there, just within the last few seconds.
This is 7700 Liberty Road Drive. Again, we don't know what kind of building this is. We know there's a lot of mixed-use buildings in this area, restaurants and law firms and banks, financial services, and folks that live here as well. And we know this happened in the last hour. And we've got some traffic that's backing up in the area. Julian has been watching some of this, and this is growing as far as the impact just a local traffic, Julian.
Exactly, Jason. We're watching it in live time there as these roads continue to back up there in our system. If we can pull up and give people a look at the speed map there. I also want to kind of put in context where this is because we've been talking about how close it is to South Park Mall here. And I'm going to show you, I've been able to put the text on there so you can see where South Park Mall is. I'm going to go ahead and bring back out the arrow to show you exactly where that fire is. So when we're talking about the proximity to South Park Mall, we're talking not even a full block down there. And we're starting to see those delays again. Build on Fairview Road, build on Park South Road there. We're also getting reports, if I can zoom in here for you, where that fire is right over here. As I'm going to bring back out my arrow, there is a Hilton right across the street from this, and they say they have not evacuated that Hilton yet, but people are describing a chaotic scene there. So we would anticipate that they may evacuate them soon. As you heard meteorologist Andrew Brightman say, their air conditions around there probably not good. But as we zoom out again, just to show you how close that is, South Park Mall, as we get closer to 10 o'clock, a very busy area in South Park there. And the road delays, again, backing up on Sharon Road, Fairview Road, Park South Road there as we continue to back out there. Once you get to South Boulevard, you are okay. So if you need to get through that area, South Boulevard, avoid that Park Road area if possible. Take 16 if you can to get around that. But as far as that immediate area around that fire, we're seeing significant delays, and I would imagine these are going to soon turn purple, which means that these roads are shut down. But that dark red showing us that people in that area are pretty much in standstill traffic right around South Park Mall.
Good reason. They don't want anybody to get close to what's happening right now, and they also want to make sure that people are not in the way so that more firefighters can get to the scene to help with what is sure to be a long fight to get these flames out.
Yeah, we've been watching for the last 12, 15 minutes or so, and the fire, at least from this vantage point that we're looking at, looks like the flames have doubled. I don't know that the fire has necessarily...
They certainly have doubled from what we're looking at.
Yeah,
right
I mean,
now.
the height of the flames, the intensity of the black smoke, the width of the fire looks like it has continued to spread. This is a 3-alarm fire. Again, we don't know what kind of building this is. We don't know what caused it. We know there's a lot of construction happening around the Charlotte area and in the South Park area. This is near the mall. This is not at the mall. We don't know what businesses were affected, how many people may have been in this building. We've got multiple crews that are on the way, if not already there. Trying to get as close as you can is going to be difficult. We've got co-workers that are in buildings that are down near there that aren't able to get out of their buildings. And we're starting to get some folks send videos in of what must just be a chaotic scene the closer you are to this. You can probably hear sirens that are going on. You know that the streets are filled with first responders trying to get to this area. And so we're going to continue to monitor what may have caused this.
Our news director just walked in and said it's an apartment complex under construction.
Okay.
So we are just getting confirmation of that, an apartment complex under construction, which makes you think that nobody was inside, potentially workers.
Hope. Right.
But if it's under construction, that no one was living in it at the time, there is a lot of construction down in the area. This map kind of gives you a little perspective. When we say South Park, this is not the mall, but it is close to the mall, and traffic certainly picking up. But the intensity of this fire.
It's massive.
It really is. 9/11 is when we first heard from Charlotte firefighters about this fire, when they put out a media alert to let us know that they were responding, and they have upgraded it to a 3-alarm fire. We want to check in with meteorologist Andrew Brightman, keeping an eye on the wind speeds and how that may play a factor in where we're seeing the smoke move across the city.
Yeah, on the image to the right here, just a much wider image, and kind of really shows exactly what's going on. First, with where the smoke is blowing, and then secondly, how high it's going up in the atmosphere. You can see again, that's going to be the general direction of where it's heading towards the airport. We have breezy conditions, not really strong and gusty winds, but can we go back to that wide shot again one more time? I just want to point something out because it shows what we call sometimes the temperature profile in the atmosphere. Air will keep rising until it's at the same temperature or cooler than the surrounding air. You'll notice, you see the smoke initially goes up probably about two, maybe 3,000 feet, and then starts heading almost horizontal. Basically, it's hitting a bit of a cap here in the atmosphere. what we call a little bit of an inversion, and then the smoke is just basically heading due west and riding with the wind. So everywhere downstream, I was talking about Yorkmont, Montclair South, they're going to probably be seeing significant decreases in air quality for the foreseeable future, at least until they get this fire out. And this is probably going to continue to blow all the way west, just with the intensity that we've been seeing with this fire all the way probably over into portions of Gaston County. This is downwind, because you can see it's rising about 3,000 to 4,000 feet, and that's hitting that a little bit of a cap here in the atmosphere. As we warm up, that should go away and the smoke should begin to rise a little bit higher, but that's just something I'm noticing here with this fire over this past about 10 to 15 minutes. And Wyatt and Jason.
All right, Andrew, thank you very much. We've got, I'm sorry, can you say that again, Sam? Okay, we're hearing reports, folks are calling in saying that they are seeing and feeling ashes that are starting to fall in that area. I mean, if you're down in this area, we're starting to get some videos that are coming into us of people that are as close as they possibly can be. We've got coworkers that are in buildings nearby that are having to stay there. But the amount of, and Andrew, you can talk about this, the amount of ash that's going up into the atmosphere. I mean, at some point, it is going to start coming down.
It start coming down, and one of the things I was just talking about here, it's still staying, that smoke, once it hits that cap in the atmosphere, it's only about 3,000 to 4,000 feet off the ground. If this would happen, let's say, in the middle of a sunny day, in the middle of the afternoon, it would, even as the wind would blow it, it would continue to rise higher and higher. There's still a little bit of a cap, or what we call a temperature inversion, that's preventing that smoke to keep rising higher. So all downwind, you have this smoke about 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 feet, still relatively close to the ground, and probably as we're seeing those reports of ash come in as the smoke continues to blow downwind here towards the west. Again, in around I-77, 485, in around the airport, just south of the airport, and eventually it's just such an intense and large fire all the way into Gaston County as well.
Okay, so we were just told by our news director moments ago, this is an apartment complex that is under construction. Now, we don't know, we can't confirm what caused it. We don't know if, this is some video that's coming in from people that are nearby that they are sending. You could see from the ground perspective there just how high that black smoke is rising and just the chaos that must be on the ground the closer you get to this scene. We don't know if a gas line was hit. We don't know anything of what may have caused it, but we know this building was under construction, which you were saying, Ann, why it could be good news that maybe there weren't people there.
It will likely be some time before we know what caused this fire, because the priority for firefighters right now is to get the fire out.
Right.
They have been working to do that now for about the better part of 45 minutes to an hour now. This is a 3-alarm fire in South Park at a building, and the intensity, you're looking at this fire live, burning here. This camera that we're using is on top of the Hyatt Hotel in South Park, showing just an ugly fire, a large fight ahead of firefighters. This afternoon, we've seen them try to spray some, or I say afternoon, excuse me, morning, trying to put some fire or water onto the fire right now. Do we have any other videos? Are we working to get those in? Okay, we are working to get those in from our emails onto your screen here. Again, this is a 3-alarm fire in the 7700 block of Liberty Row. There are several businesses in the area. It is workday hours. A lot of people stopping, and probably stopped in their cars right now, that they can't get anywhere because firefighters need the space to get to the scene to fight this fire.
We're getting a lot of videos coming into our emails. We're trying to get those turned around so that you can see them at home. But even just from some of what I'm looking at on my phone that we're going to show you here soon, there's just a lot of chaos from all directions. I mean, from miles around this area, north, south, east, west, you can see the smoke. I'm sure a lot of curiosity as people want to know what's going on. So if you were headed anywhere near the South Park area, don't go there, at least today, because they're going to need as much room as possible for these first responders. But those flames that we're looking at there on the left-hand side, I mean, they're now split. There's one on each side there, but they continue to grow in size. The massive amount of black smoke, we're hearing from people that have called in saying that ash is starting to fall from the area, and this is affecting traffic all around the area, Julian.
Yeah, that's right, Jason. And last time I joined you guys, I was talking about how we would soon see some of these roads turn dark purple, meaning that they've closed down those roads. We have now seen that here showing on our maps, as I'm going to zoom in for you and show you where that's turning purple. So that fire, again, I'm going to bring out the arrow to show you where that is. It's right over here between Barkley Downs Road and Fairview Road, right there near Piedmont Road Drive. And you can see right there where that road has now gone purple. That means that that road is closed down, and I would imagine we're going to continue to see that. Also interesting here, you can see the backups continue on Tyvola heading towards that fire. My concern is if it gets closer to South Boulevard all the way out there, I'm going to zoom back in so you can see those colors there. South Boulevard all the way on the left side of your screen there. These backups could continue there because, as you can imagine, there's not a lot of places to get off. That dark red is signaling that we have a lot of cars just stuck in place. Jason, you were just talking about it, the chaos probably around that scene. Again, we're close to South Park Mall here as I zoom back in and show you where that is. That dark red showing that there's no place for anybody to go. Sharon Road is slow both ways. As you can see, the yellow there. Red on the other side, meaning they're not moving. Fairview Road, both sides there. South Park Mall, if you're around that area. If you know anybody in South Park Mall who's over there, my best advice would be to try to get them onto Sharon Road to get out of there. If they go the other way towards the fire, they're not going to be moving anytime soon. If you're taking Fairview Road, I recommend getting off, trying to get over to South Boulevard or to 16 to avoid this, because as we've been talking about it, fire crews need as much access to this as possible. So the sooner people can get out of that way and let fire crews do what they need to do. And I'm being told we have new video as I send things back over to the anchor desk.
All right, Julian, yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that. We're continuing to get new video in from viewers all around the Queen City. And we were just talking, Ann Wyatt, we're seeing this view on the right-hand side from higher up, but down on ground level, the chaos and the fear that I'm sure a lot of people have.
And then this video is showing us a lot of construction workers in their neon shirts and hats there outside, and we're told that this is an apartment building under construction that is on fire right now, and that intensity, I'm hearing from some of my neighbors that are 6 and 7 miles away from South Park that they are starting to see that smoke stretch over the city. So there are a lot of people, even if you aren't in the South Park neighborhood right now, you're looking up and you're seeing that thick, dark smoke from this fire scene. Again, it is a 3-alarm fire. That means that Charlotte firefighters have tripled the resources that are responding to this scene. They want to rotate the firefighters through as they work to try to get this fire out, because Jason, that is the #1 priority right now, is to safely get this fire out. And we're starting to see the smoke cover. It looks like the flames have stretched over to the right side of this building, and the smoke is covering now the crane that we're seeing here.
We've got some video from our Daniel Pierce. This is video that we're looking at there on the left-hand side from a couple floors up. There are we've got a few co-workers that are down in that area in some buildings, and they're being told to stay put until they're able to leave. But this is, man, when you're down there and you can hear the sirens and you see the chaos, I'm sure there's a lot of confusion and just a lot of curiosity of what's going on. We're now looking at this picture that it continues to spread from left to right, the size of it, the intensity of the black smoke. We've been hearing some people have called in saying that they're starting to see the ashes fall back down from the sky. And Andrew, you were telling us a while ago that they're sort of hitting, the ashes are going up, the smoke, and it's like hitting a ceiling.
You can pull back up this wide shot that we have. It hits a bit of a ceiling here in the atmosphere, and basically it just starts blowing due east with the wind. It's keeping the smoke a little bit lower to the ground. You can see basically there's the initial source here where the fire's burning.
Has filled the air. We were talking with Andrew Brightman moments ago that, you know, once all the smoke goes up into the air, you're going to eventually hit a ceiling. It's going to come back down, and this is going to affect a lot of the area of the South Park Mall area. You can see straight in the middle of this shot, water that's being put there in the center. We've seen this grow. I'm not saying that it's getting smaller.
Well,
we don't see as many
intensity-
flames. Yeah, we
the
don't see as many
intensity,
flames as we saw 20
and
minutes
from
ago.
covering fires for 15 years now, firefighters will tell you the color of the smoke indicates the intensity of what is burning. So we're starting to see what was a thick, dark smoke from our Arlington camera, our tower camera, is now appears to be white. But again, this fight is far from over. It is a 5-alarm fire in South Park, a construction site in the 7700 block of Liberty Row. And we want to check in with Julian here because traffic is a nightmare in this area as more firefighters are being called to this scene. The roads are starting to really clog up.
Yeah, that's right, Anna Wyatt. We're continuing to see the roads back up there. And if we can bring up the map, I've went ahead and marked where that fire is as we wait to pull that up there. But I'm seeing significant delays right there on Fairview Road. That's right in front of where this fire is. And you mentioned they're evacuating some of those fire trucks from there. But the problem that they're facing right now is an absolute logjam of cars right there. I'm going to go ahead and bring out the arrow to show you just what I'm talking about there. So we have that fire marked. And as we take a look there, again, Fairview Road is blocked in both ways. That dark purple that we're seeing right there means they have that road closed down, but the dark red means that traffic isn't moving there. So you're thinking Park South Road right there, Park South Drive, excuse me, both ways are slow right there. Park Road, as we go over there, they're slow. Fairview Road slow, even going to Park Road. And now we're seeing some of these other roads around there also being slow. Sharon Road, slow both ways. And as we even zoom out, and again, to try to provide some context for you guys, as Jason has been saying, it's not South Park Mall. That's where South Park Mall is, so a couple blocks away from where this fire is happening. But as we zoom out here, you can see the delays on the roadways. I've seen them stretch down Sharon Road further southbound here. I'm going to bring back out the arrow all the way down here. Okay, so when this fire started, it was looking at delays up to here. We've now gone further southbound, further northbound with these, northbound on some of these delays, further east and westbound. So as we continue to watch them fight the fire, more people are trying to get to this area or get through this area, getting caught in this traffic jam. The delays are further spreading, which of course makes it harder for these fire officials to fight this fire. But again, not South Park Mall, as we've been saying right there. It is close. The fire right there near Liberty Road Drive. And again, we've been told it is a apartment building under construction. But if you are heading towards the area, you know somebody in South Park Mall there, best recommendation probably would be actually to stay put where you are inside of the mall, because trying to get out and add your car to all of this is only going to further make things worse for emergency officials trying to get to the scene. The best thing you can do is absolutely avoid this area of South Park, guys.
And we've got crews trying to get there, but stuck in traffic. We do want to check in with our Daniel Pierce. Daniel, can you hear us? Daniel, do we have you? Okay, we're having some technical glitches here, so pardon that, and thanks for bearing with us with this developing situation. If you're just joining us, it's 10 minutes after 10. You are looking live at a large fire burning at a construction site, an apartment building under construction. We've seen flames now for the better part of an hour here as Charlotte firefighters activate a 5-alarm call, meaning they are throwing all of the resources that they safely can at this fire to put it out.
Yeah, and
Julian, you've got an update?
Yeah, and so we were talking about those road closures there. CMPD is now saying that as they're fighting this fire on Liberty Road Drive, they're asking people to avoid that area, South Park area, as we've mentioned, seek alternate routes. But particularly, these are the roads that they want you to avoid. And we've been showing you here on the speed map. Liberty Road Drive, they want you away from. Fairview Road, Assembly Street, Barclay Downs Drive, Park South Drive until further notice. So we're showing you there, Park South Drive. Again, I'm going to show it here with that arrow. They're asking people to avoid Park South Drive, Fairview Drive, as we're seeing there, Barclay Downs Drive right here. These are the roads where we're seeing the significant delays. That's why our crews haven't been able to get to the scene yet because of these delays. But also, again, we've been saying it makes it tougher for these emergency officials to either move those fire trucks back as they continue to fight that fire there or get more personnel to there. So again, those roads for people in the area or no people in South Park Mall, Liberty Road Drive, Fairview Road, Assembly Street, Barclay Downs Drive, Park South Drive. They're asking people to avoid those roadways until further notice so they can continue to try to get the situation under control as soon as possible.
And I'm just hearing from our Morgan Francis, who just got a public safety alert push that Charlotte Fire Department is battling a large fire in South Park. Do not call 911 unless you have an emergency. She just got this push alert.
Our Brian Christensen is down there right now. This is can we go to Brian? Is this his video right now? Okay, this is live footage coming in on the left-hand side of your screen. Our photographer Brian Christensen is down there right now, and we're looking at. I've seen some video on Twitter. What looks like part of this building has collapsed. The center part of the building looks like it may have collapsed. We don't have that confirmed yet, but we're looking at still water being poured on this, and the flames are still coming up through this building.
And that's why you're looking at that firefighter on top of the ladder fighting this fire defensively and not going in because of the intensity and the threat and concern that this building could collapse. When you have a fire that's burned for as long and as intensely as this one has, you can hear in Brian in this video feed the fire alarms going off in the background, and a lot of people just standing there staring at what's happening, because this is not something that we see often.
No, we don't. There's a lot of construction all over the South Charlotte area, certainly in the South Park area. This is a block or two away from South Park Mall. Water being poured on by the Charlotte Fire Department. This is a multi-story apartment complex that is under construction. And through those flames, you can see people there on the roof taking pictures and watching. Through those flames, if you were to just go straight at that shot, there's another building under construction across the street. I can only imagine that there's fear of that building catching on fire and spreading to other businesses. So firefighters working to put this out. As we go back to this is one of the shots that we've been looking at for over an hour now. I'm sorry. The Marriott in South Park has been evacuated. Our producer, Sam, just telling us that the Marriott in South Park has been evacuated. But even in the last 20 minutes, that smoke was all pitch black on the right-hand side of the screen. So the changing in the color of this fire and the smoke is starting to take shape.
Well, and the Marriott, just one of several businesses that have patrons and customers and employees that are evacuating because of the intensity here that we're seeing. This fire now has been burning for more than an hour here. Charlotte fire crews first alerting to the fire at 9:11 this morning. And this is video from about an hour ago when we first learned of the fire.
Wow,
I know we looked up and saw the feed that this is a shot we show you every day, but we looked up and saw this fire, and we immediately knew something bad was happening because of the intensity of this. So you're looking on the right side, a live feed right now of firefighters trying to put water on this fire to get the flames out, and then of course the intensity of this fire burning not long ago. Again, a 5-alarm fire. What that means, Charlotte Fire Department chiefs are calling out all the resources that they can. A push alert went out not long ago. It might have gone off on your phone at home, warning that Charlotte fire crews were fighting a large fire in South Park. And do not call 911 unless you have an absolute emergency. And that signals the resources that are being redirected to fight this fire.
And just don't go to the South Park Mall area if you don't have to today. Julian's been watching the traffic. It's been backing up, and we got to keep all those areas clear for first responders to get down there. But yeah, just the video you can see there as you look to the right a little bit near the top of the screen, you can see water that the Charlotte Fire Department is pouring on. You can tell the construction with the cranes there that we can now see. We haven't been able to really make out those cranes for the last hour because of the thick smoke. Now you can see water underneath those cranes as the water rises there to try to put those flames out. There's construction all around the area, even across the street from this building. So I'm sure the fire department is working to try to keep that building cool so that it doesn't also go up in flames and this continue to spread. This is the 7700 block, Liberty Road Drive. This is near the Ruth's Chris Steakhouse and apartment complex that was under construction. Haven't heard if there was anyone in the building or what may have caused this to go up in flames.
We want to check in with Andrew Brightman here, keeping an eye on the wind speeds, which certainly play a role in terms of how firefighters are putting this fire out and what they're dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely right. So you can see exactly where the smoke is blowing here. This is actually based with the terminal radar at the airport, the Doppler radar that they use at the airport, and you can actually see that that radar is picking up all the smoke in around the near the South Park Mall. Continues to blow off to the west right now. You can just see kind of actually how the smoke is sort of fanning out right there, and you can see basically anyone in the green. This obviously isn't rain, it's smoke, but that's where we see really potentially the ash falling. It continues to blow westward, eventually into portions of Gaston County, where we really see the air quality go down. So I'm able to actually follow and track where the smoke is going, but really all across portions of southwestern Mecklenburg County. This is, you see, I see the plume of smoke just forming over the past about 40 to 45 minutes or so, and then riding exactly downwind with that wind direction towards the west as this fire continues to burn.
What the radar is picking up, but we're hearing, I have some friends working in Uptown in some of the towers, and they've got a clear line of vision to the smoke and the fire, knowing that, you know, and that's miles away for people who've made that trip from Uptown down to South Park. It does appear that the intensity of the fire, the smoke, the color of it is certainly starting to change. Not out of the woods yet. You can see two different ladder trucks there spraying water onto the flames, and it's got that orange hue. So you know it's still burning there, but certainly making progress. This live picture here from Brian Christensen, who is there on what appears to be a roof, a parking garage deck, not far from the fire there. That crane was covered with smoke earlier. So it does appear from the looks of it that the situation is starting to change, but part of that has to do with Charlotte Fire Battalion chiefs activating a 5-alarm fire, saying we need more resources down here so that we can keep our crews safe and get this fire out.
All hands on deck for this fire, and a lot of construction, as we've been saying, in this area. Straight through that smoke, if you were to just look straight through where that crane is on the other side of the street, is another multi-story, appears to be 8 to 10-story building under construction. I'm sure they're trying to save that from going up in smoke as well, and this could certainly spread to other buildings. This is an apartment complex that was under construction, so we're hoping, we haven't heard if anyone was in the building, if they were working on it when this fire started. We haven't had anyone call in or email that say they heard an explosion, so there may not have been a gas line cut. We don't know. We don't know what caused this fire. May not know today. It may be days before we know. We had a photographer about a half an hour ago say he was 2 miles away, and there was ash that was coming down from the sky, just so much thick black smoke, which has now changed colors, which could be good news that the intensity of this fire is changing. Maybe it's not as strong as these the fire department continues to try to put this out from all fronts. Here's another wide view. You can still just see the power of the smoke as it goes up. This is still a massive fire. I've seen a couple of videos on Twitter. We haven't had any come into us yet that showed what appeared the middle of this building to have collapsed. Maybe that's helping them slowly start to get this under control, but this is still going to be hours as far as taking over this fire and keeping this area safe.
And one thing that will help crews in their fight is to stay, if you can stay away from the South Park area. This is not at the mall, but Julian is keeping tabs on just really a traffic nightmare surrounding this fire scene as more crews try to make their way there to support the firefighting efforts. Julian?
Yeah, Ann White, that's right. The traffic continuing to show delays on Tyvola Fairview. I just want to mention again the roads that CMPD is asking people to avoid: Liberty Road Drive, Assembly Street, Barclay Downs Drive, Park South Drive right there. And as we zoom in, I'll show you exactly where those are and why that's vital to what they're doing over there. Park South Drive right over here. Barclay is right over here to Fairview Road. So this is where the fire is, right around here. And we mentioned that we had one of those hotels evacuate. That hotel is right around here. So it shows you just how close that is. Literally less than a block away from where that fire is. That's where the evacuation is. And then in proximity to South Park Mall, you're going to see South Park Mall right there. Again, if you're in South Park Mall right now, if you know somebody in there, their best bet is to stay inside. Don't try to get in your car and go, because Fairview Road completely blocked in both directions. As we push in a little bit closer here, all the roads getting out around the mall are going to be blocked down. Guys, we're going to head back to the desk. We're going to get some new stuff in.
We have Brett Baldeck out there right now. And Brett, what are you seeing in terms of just the response out there now?
And why, I mean, there are roads closed all around here. I just parked as close as I could get. We're on top of a parking garage. Excuse me. You can see the smoke.
All right, we're trying to work on Brett's mic.
It's very loud there.
It's very loud. It's very chaotic. There are alarms going off. There are fire crews and sirens that are in that area. We're going to try to reestablish that with Brett, because we do want to hear what he has to say.
But just to give you an idea, this fire, we were first notified about it at 9:11. So it's now been burning for more than an hour, and it's taken, Brett, about that amount of time just to get close to the scene, just because the traffic around the South Park area, very busy. Roads are backed up, as Julian has been telling you. We do want to kind of reset and fill you in on what we know. As I mentioned, 9/11 is when this fire initially came out as a 2-alarm fire. It has since been upgraded to a 5-alarm fire. The building appears to be vacant, under construction, an apartment facility on Liberty Row Drive. And we've watched the intensity change over the last hour as well.
Yeah, when we first saw this over an hour ago, the smoke that you're seeing there in the middle of your screen was completely filled the screen. It was black. It was full. The flames were continuing to rise. It appeared about the height of the crane that you see there. You couldn't even see the crane. That's how intense it was. People were saying for miles around you could see the black smoke. We were tracking it here. Our meteorologist Andrew Brightman was tracking it back here in West Charlotte. We had people say that ash, they could see ashes falling down from this fire about 2 to 3 miles away. Are we going to try to go back to Brett? All right, Brett Baldeck is out there as close as possible. Brett, we know we may have issues with your mic. What can you see? What's going on right now?
Yeah, we apologize for that, Jason. We're trying to get set up as fast as we can. We're using our microphone. I think you can hear me better now. So we are on a parking garage right across the street, and you can see, I mean, the pictures tell the story. You can see that there's still smoke coming from the building. CMPD's chopper is here and actually just landed a couple feet away from us on another building's parking garage. And unfortunately, we've been talking about, there is someone in that crane that we saw when we got here. We're not going to show him, but we're going to show you the flames right now. You can see that they are spraying water on it. There are fire alarms going off by these nearby buildings here. I'm looking at the USI Insurance Services building, which is right next door. Those alarms are going off, and firefighters are really doing their best to spray water on this. As Julian has been saying, do not come to South Park right now. South Park Mall, this entire area, the roads are closed. You can't get close. There are people who work in this area that are all standing in the streets watching this fire as it continues to burn. I was driving here. Our station is over by the airport. As soon as I jumped on 485, you could see the smoke from this fire. The good news is it's calmed down a little bit, but this is still a raging fire, as you mentioned, a 5-alarm fire. You can see on the parking garage there are people here watching. I'm just going to gawk over the side here. Firefighters are running. They're trying their best, you know, to get this fire out. The white smoke that we're seeing, that's a good sign. That means they are getting water on this building, and it appears that man in the crane, he's standing out there. I think he's kind of just waiting for them to get this fire under control. But again, do not come to South Park. If you are watching us, stay at home, watch our coverage. We're going to try and keep you as up to date as we can, but this is not an area you want to be in right now. All the roads are closed. Jason and Wyatt, I'll send it back to you guys unless you have any additional questions. I just got on the scene. I'll try and answer them as best as I can.
Brett, I want to go back. I know we're not trying to show it, but you said earlier, right when you started, you said there is someone, there's a crane operator up inside the crane right now?
Yes, I'm looking at him right now. He's actually out on, I don't know how to describe it. Just he's out, he's on top of the crane out where you can see him. And he appeared fine. He can walk. Obviously, there's a lot of smoke up there, and you can only hope that they can get this under control soon so they can get him. I'm looking at him right now, and he's kind of just kneeled down from what I can see, just kind of looking on. I mean, what else can you do when you're in a big crane like that and there's a raging fire below you?
Brett, are they trying to rescue?
Obviously, I don't know.
Are they trying to rescue him?
I don't see any. I don't. Jason, to be honest with you, I don't think they can go in there yet because of the flames. But I don't see any firefighters climbing up the crane or anything at this point.
All right, Brett, thank you for that. We will check back in with you here in just a few minutes. Our producer telling us Atrium Health is shifting into trauma mode right now. As a result, Carolinas Medical Center, the Atrium Main, is the level 1 trauma center for the region. We are just hearing that. The Marriott in South Park has been evacuated. According to our executive producer, they are working the phones, trying to call businesses in the area. My neighbor works down there. She says she's okay in a building nearby, but all of her coworkers are just watching in awe of what's happening right outside in a heavily populated and busy area on a weekday morning.
Now, while the intensity has gone down in the last hour, that is some good news. This is an apartment complex under construction. We're hoping that there weren't many people inside when this fire started. We think we have one of our reporters, Daniel Pierce, maybe on the phone down in this area. Are we going to Daniel? Daniel, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you, Daniel. Where are you and what are you seeing?
Yeah. So I am at the Bank of America building here off of Fairview, right across from Zoe's Kitchen. And I'm hoping that you guys are able to see my vantage point right here. And the smoke is incredible. And I know Brian had mentioned that they've seen somebody up there, a crane operator, and I've been able to see them occasionally. They are right behind this plume of smoke. They are on the other side from where I am. But I've been able to see they are right behind, if you're able to see in your screen, brick of concrete or a large brick that's right there in the middle of the crane where it looks to be attached. That's where we've seen them spread up, their head pop up sporadically. And we talk about the amount of people here. This right here is what it looks like. We have people all out in Bank of America building parking lot. This is the police have tried to move everyone back. But what I can tell you is that we have seen some planes pop up sporadically, if you're able to see, right in this building directly in front of me. I'm not able to tell what this building actually is, and that seems to be where a large part of their concentration to putting these flames out. That's where it looks to be. Talk about medic. We got medic all the way lining this street. Again, police are just trying to contain and minimize the amount of people that are out here getting exposed to whether it be this smoke or just at risk in case anything were to go even worse than it actually is right now. In fact, they're moving back a little bit.
Daniel, we see some construction workers and crews in the area. Have you been able to talk to anyone that might have been working on that building? It is an apartment building that was under construction.
Yeah, so whenever it comes to the construction workers, I have not been able to sit down and have a conversation with them. We do know, or what I've been able to see is they have been on the other side of the police tape. They've been sitting. This is what they've been trying to elect themselves. And we've also seen them have conversations with other individuals. I'm not too sure if they are officials, if they're firefighters, if they're people that they work with or work for. But in terms of conversations with them, I have not been able to sit down and have a conversation with them. They are keeping a watchful eye out on all this as it's unfolded. Again, you've seen a crane operator up there, and that looks to be a large amount of focus as well.
I cannot get over that there is a worker
I can't
up
either.
there. Not long ago, while you were making your way to the scene, Daniel, that crane was covered in thick black smoke.
I can't imagine the heat, the amount of heat that worker must be feeling, and they've got to get this fire out before they can even get close enough to try to have a rescue operation there. Does it just seem to be chaotic down where you are, hearing sirens and having just first responders all over the area? I mean, what is sort of the mood like?
So the mood right now is everybody is sitting, everybody is watching this, and whenever it comes to the fire officials, their minds are set on getting this put out. Whenever it comes to the police officers that are out here, as well as other resources, we have medic out here. I've not seen anybody transported, but it looks as if a lot of this, we talk about chaos. It seems as if a lot of what police are trying to do right now is minimize the amount of people that are showing up and trying to get as close as they possibly can to this, because this right here it is. It's South Park. It's in the middle of the morning. Of course, you can imagine people are going to be around this area. The moment this happens, people are going to step outside. They want that look. And also, to put into perspective, this is right across from the mall. So you can imagine the people that were showing up. I know the mall opens at around 10 o'clock. The amount of people that were showing up around this time, seeing this setup now stop, trying to take it all in, take videos, and be witness to what is happening.
Can you tell from where you are if that building, we know it appeared like it was 6-7 stories high. I can't really tell. It looks like the elevator shaft is kind of what we're looking at maybe there to the right. Does it appear that part of the middle of this building may have collapsed?
Yes. So from what I'm able to tell, and I hope you're able to see it on your screen, this is as far as I'm able to zoom in. It looks as if part of this building has collapsed. It looks as if, just from my vantage point, the right side of the building has collapsed, and we're starting to see flames come up in the upper part of what is remaining there on the left side. I'm not able to tell. I know you mentioned I'm not able to tell if it's an elevator shaft or what exactly it is, but you can tell. I mean, a lot of that right side is just gone from where I'm able to see from the middle of the building.
Well, the fact that we can even see part of that building and that we can see through the smoke, I'm hoping is some good news that they are slowly starting to get this fire much more under control than, almost an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, and I do want to make note, but we talk about the smoke that's billowing up. We got the wind out here that's blowing it just from where I am. It's blowing it on the other side, but from where I've seen that crane operator, it's blowing it directly into his face at this point. And the smoke that's billowing up, it has come in waves. At times it's been like this, but then every so often you'll see just a plume of smoke go up, and then it takes over the sky again. So that's definitely something that should be watchful if anybody is out in this area on, I want to say, maybe the north side of where we are, South Park.
Daniel Pierce, thank you so much. We're going to let you go, maybe try to talk to a few people, and we'll check back in with you in just a minute, in a few minutes. We do want to remind everyone that a public safety alert has gone out, letting people know that Charlotte firefighters are fighting a large fire in South Park. They are asking you not to call 911 unless it is an absolute emergency right now, because of all of the resources that are in South Park right now fighting this fire. We've been on the air with you here for this for almost an hour here now. And we've certainly seen the intensity of the smoke, the flames change. We're also learning from our crews on the ground that there appears to be a worker on that crane above this fire scene.
Now, look at the crane there on the left-hand side of your screen there, which we've only been able to see in the last 20 minutes. For about an hour, you couldn't see it. It was in the middle of just thick black smoke, but apparently somewhere on that crane is a construction worker. This apartment complex has been under construction, so we're hoping that there weren't many people inside. But yeah, somewhere on that crane there is a worker. I imagine they're trying to get this fire under control as quickly as possible and then begin some type of rescue effort to get to this person. We are hearing that Atrium Health nearby is in trauma mode this morning, so we don't know how many people have been taken, if any have been taken to local hospitals with what type of injuries. Hopefully not burns. We don't know what started this fire. We haven't had any reports, calls or anything about an explosion. So it kind of leads you to believe maybe there wasn't a gas line cut. We don't know. We don't know what started this fire.
Whatever it was, it spread quickly and it spread intensely through this building here. If you're just joining us, kind of bringing you up to speed with how the last hour and a half has transpired, this call went out at 9:11 for a 2-alarm fire. When fire crews got to this apartment building under construction, they arrived to smoke and flames, signaling the need to call for backup. We went from a 2-alarm fire to a 3-alarm fire. We are now at a 5-alarm fire. And for anyone not familiar with these designations, it simply is a way for firefighters to know the resources that are needed because of the scope of the call and what they're dealing with. So it has been an intense morning for those firefighters out there fighting this fire. It's what they do.
We've had people nearby the area that have been emailing and sending us videos, what it looks like from their vantage point up 10, 11, 12 stories on tops of parking decks and roofs and from shopping centers around the area, just the thick black smoke. We had a photographer that was 2 miles away, said that there were ashes that were coming down from the sky. That's how thick this was just even in the last hour. It does appear that it is slowly getting more under control. Again, Atrium Health nearby saying that they are in trauma mode. We don't know yet if they have been receiving anyone because of this fire. We've got our Brett Baldick, who has been out there and moving closer to the scene. Brett, where are you now and what are you seeing from where you're at?
Hey, Jason. Yeah, we moved down to the ground level. We're on the back side of the building, which you can clearly see it was under construction. And you can see, under construction, I should say, you can see the destruction caused by this fire that is slowly getting under control, but you can still see that black smoke, flames coming out. And everywhere we go, there are hundreds of people watching this. And they're all asking us if we saw the man on the crane. So there is a man at the top of that crane. As we keep saying, we saw him earlier, who is obviously waiting to be rescued. I understand that he is in communication with someone on the ground. There was a woman on a phone that was talking to him. And she didn't want to go on camera, but she was talking to him via her cell phone. So our hope is they can get this under control soon and get a firefighter up there to get this crane operator down. Again, if you are going to the South Park area, do not come here at this time. All the roads surrounding this area are closed. We're right across the street from South Park Mall. I don't know if you guys can hear, there are fire alarms going off from every different direction from all of the surrounding buildings because we are in the heart of South Park, and the smoke was so bad that it has made it in to other surrounding buildings, and they have also been evacuated. But you can see there's still some black smoke coming out of the back side here, and there are a couple ladder trucks that you could see that are getting the water on the fire as best as they can. That's all I have for right now. Jason and I don't know who's on the desk. If you guys have any other questions, I'll try to answer them as best as I can. But I mean, the pictures tell the story that this fire is still going, and it's going to be a little bit before that. I think they can get it completely put out. Back to you guys.
And Brett, it appears that those buildings that are also under construction are really close. I would assume the heat that's coming off this building, that firefighters are concerned about the neighboring buildings with this fire spreading.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, this fire was huge. I was talking to an eyewitness who came up to me and sent me some videos of when it first started. He worked in an office building. He said at first it started very small, but within a matter of minutes, we have another fire truck going by here. Within a matter of minutes, it just went into a 5-alarm out-of-control fire. And I should mention that the fire trucks I'm seeing here, one is all the way from Plaza Midwood, and this one's from the Shamrock Express, which I assume is from Plaza Shamrock. So they are calling in firefighters from around the city of Charlotte to get this fire under control. But like I said, there are people all around here that work, and they're all outside right now watching this fire and hoping that they can get this crane operator down from the top of this crane. That is, apparently this was an apartment complex under construction, and if that's the case, there was obviously plenty of materials, unfortunately, that could burn, and I guess that could explain why the fire was able to spread so quickly with all the wood and construction materials that may have been on site here. Jason, back to you.
All right, Brett. Yeah, thank you very much. That gives you a good idea of kind of what they're working on right now, getting those hot spots under control, how close those buildings are next door. And that shot, if we can go back to Terry's shot, Brett keeps saying that there's a worker still up on the crane, which is incredibly high up above this fire, that there's still, Ann White, that there's still a worker up on the crane.
Well, and this is an active construction site.
Yeah.
So you know there were people there working likely this morning, that crane operator, one of them, and it takes your breath away when you think about what that person has seen so close over the last hour and a half. We do know that firefighters are working as quickly as they can to get water on the areas and keep that crane from taking any more of the impact of this fire.
Can we go back to Terry's shot, if at all possible, of the crane? To me, this is now a rescue effort. I mean, I would think that, yeah, you got a fire that you're trying to put out. You don't want it to spread to the nearby buildings. Smoke is obviously causing a lot of problems in this area. But do we have that crane shot at all? Okay, one of our photographers. There we go. So there's the crane that we've been describing that is high above this apartment complex. There's a worker still on that crane.
And keep in mind, about an hour ago, we couldn't even see the crane because of how thick the black smoke was. People working in Uptown had a clear shot of this fire burning in South Park. We do want to check in with our Robin Kennedy, who is standing by down in South Park. Robin, what are you hearing about this response, and what are you seeing right now?
And Wyatt, this is having a major impact on traffic here in the neighborhood with the response. This traffic backup is here in the Barclay Downs neighborhood. We're on Schofield Road. That's the look you're seeing there. And we are within the 1 mile radius of where the fire is. And this road, Schofield Road in the Barclay Downs neighborhood, runs parallel to Fairview Road. The fire is off Fairview Road across from South Park Mall. And so that's giving you just kind of a lay of the land. And traffic has been backed up here we've been here half hour, and we are just seeing major backups here along this road. It's interesting. We saw somebody just out walking their toddlers, taking a walk in the neighborhood. So life kind of going on as normal as this fire is so close to this neighborhood, and you can see the traffic impact here. Communications are also an issue with Charlotte Fire. I got a call back from a Charlotte Fire PIO, but then I couldn't hear anything. I heard a lot of noise around him, people around him, and then our phone call just halted and I couldn't hear any more from him. So I know that communications do seem to be an issue as far as Charlotte Fire getting out information to us, but we've just learned of a media staging area. So we're going to be heading that way off Fairview Road and try to bring you some of the latest. We did have an incident where our phones went off, like the emergency alert on our phones went off on our way out here to South Park. And they said, Charlotte Fire just said, do not call 911 unless you have an emergency. So they seem to be inundated, the communication systems here, with people just calling saying there's a fire in South Park. They know there's a fire in South Park. So they're saying unless you have another emergency, please do not call 911 to back up the systems here. Traffic backed up, communications, 911, a major impact here from this fire in the surrounding neighborhoods. I'll send it back to you all.
All right, Robin, thank you for that. And along that sentiment, when Robin mentions traffic, they're asking people to stay away from the South Park neighborhood. This is a view of as close as we've been able to get this morning, safely, of course, to what's happening. This was an apartment building under construction that somehow this morning caught fire. Of course, that's the big question. People want to know, how did the fire start? We won't know that until firefighters are able to put it out, put all the hot spots out, make sure it doesn't reignite, and then actually get to the bottom of figuring out how this fire started. Regardless of what that answer is, it spread fast this morning through that building.
It did. A little after 9/11 is when we first started looking at it from a couple of our cameras around the South Park area, and it didn't take long for the flames to double in size, in height, in width. The black smoke just filling up all of the Queen City area. People were saying, even from miles around, that ashes were starting to fall down from the sky. We were starting to catch it on radar this morning. Our May K. Beeler, who's our chief transportation correspondent, she's been checking with the airport, and there are no impacts to the airport as far as airport visibility, so that's some good news. But this is something that, you know, our Brett Baldick is with the shot that's on the left-hand side of your screen, and he was just saying there are fire alarms in every direction. Smoke is pouring into neighboring buildings, which
and those alarms are going off.
They evacuated the Marriott earlier. Locally, Atrium Health, they are in trauma mode. No word yet on if they've been receiving patients because of this fire. This is a building under construction, so at least this was not an occupied apartment complex at the time. But, you know, we don't know how many workers were there when this fire went off. We haven't had anyone call or report saying that they heard an explosion. So that typically, if a gas line is cut or something, that can cause an explosion. But we haven't had anyone report that this morning. So it may be some time before we know what started this.
We do have video from about an hour ago showing the intensity. And I want you to just, Jeff, can we take that video from earlier full screen? You can see the crane there in that video. And we have since learned that someone was in that crane during this fire.
Yeah, we didn't really start paying much attention to the crane, which is just above those flames. See, in that shot, you can't even see the crane. We didn't really start noticing it until the smoke started clearing up. But you can see to the right of the smoke, there's a crane. There's an operator that has been on that crane the entire time, and they are still there. And so now that the flames are getting more under control, I can only assume that maybe is a next step, is trying to rescue the operator. One of our photographers said that he has noticed this crane operator walking back and forth on the crane, so that we'd assume that the operator may be okay. But I can't imagine one being in the middle of this, seeing it all go on. Julian's here. Julian, yeah, what do you got?
Just one thing to add here as we're talking about the crane operator, and they mentioned Brett was saying that he didn't see anybody trying to go rescue him. One thing to consider is how close that was to the fire. Is that engine for that crane may be disabled. So normally they have an elevator, they're able to ride up and down there. That may be out of service. So the best way to rescue that crane operator is probably going to have to be on a ladder truck for one of those guys. So they're not going to be able to get close enough to get him down until they get this fire subdued there. So something to keep in mind there, wondering why he's still up there if he has a way down. It probably is not safe for him to do that. I also want to show where Brett is in proximity to this to give people kind of an idea of just how close Brett is to that fire there. If we can pull up that speed map, I can show where Brett is in proximity to it. He's literally across the parking lot away from it, just to show the intensity of that fire. But this whole entire area surrounding it is neighborhoods, things like that, where you saw Robin reporting. I do want to show this as well. When Brett is saying avoid the area, these are road closures. I've updated the map to show where things are closed. You can see all around South Park Mall, anywhere you're leaving that South Park Mall area is going to be closed. Fairview Road especially is backed up both ways. Sharon Road is going to be backed up both ways. Park South Drive is going to be backed up. You can see that Piedmont Row Drive is showing up green right there. That's the heart of the fire. That road is inaccessible right now. Carnegie Boulevard, anywhere around this fire, they're asking to avoid. Again, CMPD let us know about 30 minutes ago. Liberty Road Drive, Assembly Street, Barclay Downs Drive, Park South Drive as well. All those roads are shut down. The neighborhoods, as you saw with Robin, you can still move around there. But if you're in South Park Mall, you know somebody there. I've been saying this since we came on there. The best bet is for them to stay inside the mall, because they're not going to be to be able to get out there. And they're going to further add to the traffic jam that we've seen around on Fairview, again, Sharon Road, those surrounding roads there. The best thing to do is to stay put, avoid the area if at all possible, so we can get more of these emergency crews in. As you saw in Brett's shot there, fire trucks still arriving on scene. And again, this happened around 9/11, so we were out of rush hour, but the delays we saw quickly build up. There is some good news there as I pull out there. I'm going to bring back this shot right here, and I'm going to pull out a little bit. The good news is that people seem to be heeding CMPD's instructions, Charlotte Fire's instructions to avoid the area. Originally, we were seeing backups on Tyvola Road, stretching all the way away from the fire there. This has now turned green, meaning people are heeding that advice, staying away. Selwyn Avenue also getting better. Park Road also getting better, north and southbound of that. Sharon Road getting better, north and south. Colony Road I've seen clear up as well. So the good news is that people are listening to what CMPD is saying and avoiding those areas. The bad news is for people stuck in that, again, as I push back in and show just the intensity of that traffic right there, there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. So we're going to continue monitoring. But the good news is people continue to listen, stay away from the area so they can get this under control as soon as possible, guys.
All right, thank you, Julian. A lot of businesses impacted in the area. We want to bring in Jacob, who's a manager at Legion Brewing South Park. Jacob, do you have us? Can you hear us? Jacob, are you there? It's Ann Wyatt and Jason.
Virtually closed. Got it. Yes. Where it's like I said no.
Okay, it seems as though we're having a little issue with that connection there. As we heard Robin mention earlier, communications in the area are tough right now. In fact, there's a public service announcement, an alert that went out asking everybody to alerting them of what was going on, but also asking no one to call 911 unless it is an absolute emergency, because we've got fire crews from across the city converging on South Park because this is a 5-alarm apartment fire that was under construction. Thankfully, these units were not occupied, but you have to think about the workers who were there this morning. It is a weekday. It's a construction site. They get started early. So we don't know anything about any potential injuries or the scope of the magnitude or the extent of the fire and the damage, but it has been a heck of a fight for Charlotte firefighters this morning.
Yeah, and I'm starting to hear from even my wife, who has some coworkers. Here's the deal: there's a lot of attention on the fire, as there should be. We're looking at some of the hot spots and what may be the elevator shaft. That's what that appears to be, that they're still working to put this out. But think about all the businesses that are nearby, even within a half a mile. The smoke is everywhere in this area. Our Taylor Young just posted on Twitter moments ago that there's ash that's falling down all around on the ground within a mile or so of this area, maybe even further. But there are local businesses that have all had to evacuate in this area. The confusion, the fear that a lot of people might be feeling. There are a lot of retirement communities in this area. And so when you see the amount of chaos that's going on, it's just, this is a very difficult for the last 2 hours now. And so there are a lot of, like I said, a lot of businesses have had to evacuate from the Marriott nearby and in nearby businesses, the local Atrium Health. They're in trauma mode. So we're still waiting to hear if they've been receiving patients coming in that may have been injured from this fire. We're still waiting to hear word on that.
And this is a developing situation. We've gotten received updates since we've been on the air with you through this. So it's certainly fluid. We do expect more information and updates coming. We do know that there is a staging area for reporters, so that indicates that Charlotte firefighters are working to get the latest information, and they do plan to hold a news conference here shortly. We don't have time on when that will start. We'll certainly bring it to you when it does.
Again, this is about a 7 or 8 story apartment complex. It's been under construction, so we know that it wasn't. Well, we don't know how many people may have been in it, if it was just workers while this is under construction. I want you to look at the crane, though. The crane right in the middle of your shot. There is still a crane operator on that crane and has been there through the entire fire this morning. One of our photographers, Terry Allen, said that he saw the operator walking back and forth up on the crane, so that it appears the operator is okay. I can only imagine shaken up.
What a terrifying
because
morning.
For a full hour, Ann Wyatt, when this started around 9:11 this morning, when the first calls came in, thick black smoke. You couldn't even see the crane, the flames that were up there. So as we heard Julian mention a while ago, there usually is some type of elevator type unit on a crane like that. It may not be operating with the fire. We don't know if the fire department's going to have to go with a ladder truck to try to rescue that operator, but that is another portion of what's going to have to happen at some point on the left-hand side of your screen. They're still working. There we go. There's a tighter shot. Yeah, somewhere in that is still a crane operator.
It's unimaginable what that person has experienced and what they've seen all too close in person here. We're coming up on 11 o'clock, nearly 2 hours since crews have been fighting this fire here. We do know that it is a mess in the South Park area because of this response this morning. The streets around Liberty Road Drive are jam-packed. Crews are working to clear people out of the way. They're asking anyone in the area, if you've got an emergency, don't call 911 unless it is an absolute true emergency because of the resources. We're talking CMPD officers, Charlotte firefighters, and even medic crews that are there on standby, just working together on this scene. And we're hearing that we need to check in with Daniel Pierce, one of our Okay, we might have just lost that signal. Thanks for bearing with us. Our crews are working as diligently as they can to get not only down there, but gather more information. Okay, we're hearing we do have Daniel. Daniel, what are you hearing from people out there?
Yeah, well, first of all, I hope you guys were able to hear me from out at this scene. We are still in the same area, Barclay Downs, as well as Fairview. I have been speaking with a man. I do want to kind of talk with him. Mr. Miguel, I mean, you've been out here since all this happened. I want you to bring me up to speed. What is the last thing that you remember seeing just in the past couple minutes?
Well, originally I was just driving my car, see the smoke, so I got curious and wanted to go check it out. As soon as I got here, I ran up to the fire, trying to honestly help. Just know that's the feeling that anybody would have. As soon as I got here, it was honestly too big to even contain. The fire was going everywhere. You see in the back, the crane, flames were even higher than the crane. Somebody was stuck up there.
Yeah, because I mean, we've been seeing his head pop up sporadically, and your dad was saying that, and you said that you saw him climb down not too long ago.
Yeah, for about 25 minutes, I saw him actually up there waiting to come down, battling the flames, battling the smoke. But I think the fireman actually went up there, got him a mask, and helped him come down. Thank you.
Because I mean, that's what your dad was seeing over there, and we were sitting here watching, saw a little bit of him climbing down. But around the time that it looked like he was climbing down, that's whenever we also saw another plume of smoke, or at least that's what I saw. Smoke. Yeah.
That was calm down. Beforehand, the flames was crazy. We saw bomb.
And I know part of this building is collapsed, and we've seen a couple boards fall here and there. But you were saying, whenever you walked up here, the flames had engulfed this building, and you said that you heard an explosion. I mean, you mentioned an explosion, but you said it sounded like that. Walk me through that moment too.
As soon as I ran up, see that kind of staircase. It was a lot bigger, but as soon as I ran up, flames going everywhere. I hear a loud bang, crack, and then I see in the back, that whole back part of that staircase just fell right from this side. During services, someone who was falling in the back, but it was just a loud thing.
And your dad sent me video, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to get it on air relatively soon of him being close enough to where he could feel that heat. Did you feel any heat whenever you walked up here as well?
As soon as I ran up, that's all I felt. Instantly, like right next to a gift.
My agents have asked me at my last hit what the atmosphere was. I've only been able to describe it. I mean, tell me, where's your mindset right now from where it started to where it is right now, knowing that the crane operator has been gone down?
A little safe. Yeah, now I feel a lot better. Seeing that the fire department has really stepped in, taking control, doing what they need to do, that actually puts me a lot at ease. But when I first started it, I was pretty scared, man. I wanted to help. I was worried about everybody's safety, and then I heard that there was somebody on the crane, maybe 2 people more in the building. It was kind of terrifying. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, because I mean, especially out here, rumors do swirl, so you can only. Your ease has to come from what you see, and seeing that crane operator up there, that's where the anxiety comes in from people down here, and we're helpless at this point.
Like, you can't really do anything, but you just have to trust that, fire department's going to do their job. And thankfully they did. Honestly, they need a raise because fighting this type of fire, that's some heroic stuff.
Daniel,
Have you ever seen anything? Oh, no.
Daniel, we do want to put you on pause for just a second. If you can hear us, we are getting word that the crane operator has been rescued.
Unbelievable. Look at the crane in this shot. This is video that was recorded earlier. You can just see the amount of water that is being poured on this fire from multiple angles. And high up above on this crane, there has been an operator the entire time. And we're hearing right now, this is a live look now, that the crane operator has been rescued. We don't know when it happened. We don't know how it happened, which is, to me, a miracle that the operator is okay to start with and was seen walking around earlier, but has lived through this. I mean, this was just covered in black smoke for over an hour. The heat that must have been coming up from this, and just the fear that just comes from an operator that's there in the middle of this fire the whole time. But he has been, this operator, he or she has been rescued and is safe. That is certainly good news.
This is one of the largest responses and scenes that we have seen in the city of Charlotte for quite some time. It is all hands on deck here. We can confirm that crane operator was rescued. And
wow.
Heroes in the Charlotte Fire Department for what they drove up to today, this morning, not long ago, and they're still out there. Their work is far from over, but just incredible when you think about the smoke that we were seeing earlier and the intensity of the fire. Jeff, can we put that video up just to give people an idea of what this looked like about an hour and a half ago?
When we first came on a little after 9/11, this was a 2-alarm fire. Then this went to a 3-alarm fire, and then quickly after that up to a 5-alarm fire. But we saw the intensity and the smoke and the flames. It grew so quickly, and the fire continued to spread. We know that part of this building has collapsed. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see this apartment complex, which it's been going under construction. You can see the water still being poured on parts of what is left. There are so many buildings that are under construction near this. And so the heat that could make this fire jump and ignite on a neighboring building, they've been working to try to keep that from going up, and smoke's been pouring into businesses all around the area.
Well, and as Brett was telling us earlier, the smoke alarms from those other buildings were going off because of the smoke that was seeping in and just the intensity. We do want to check in with Julian Sador, keeping an eye. We just saw some of the building fall down there, some of the wood. Julian, the priority right now is getting fire crews to the scene, and they're really asking people to stay away from South Park at this time.
That's right, Ann Wyatt. That's what they've been saying, is to stay away from those areas. I'm going to show you right here as soon as we can bring up our speed map there. Again, these are the roads closed. It's all around South Park Mall. Fairview Road, though, is the main one here. So if you're coming from Park Road, you're coming from Sharon Road, and I'm going to go ahead and show you where those are if you need a little help finding them. Sharon Road right there to the east of it. You have Park Road there to the west of it. Fairview Road, though, this is where the fire is. That's where they're trying to get a lot of crews to. Our Brett Baldeck is somewhere right around here, and you're looking at these areas. This whole entire area is places where we have hotels, we have businesses. So when we talk about proximity to the fire and the evacuations that we've seen there, there's a lot of businesses and hotels there that needed to get people out of the way. The problem is getting those people out of there. That, of course, creates congestion on the roadways, and we've seen that on Sharon Road, on Fairview Road, all around the mall, South Park Drive, Park Road as well. The good news is we're continuing to see, and this is just a different look here, that the traffic has gotten a little bit better, and that means that people are listening to what CMPD has been saying there. Originally, when we came on air, we were seeing big backups on Tyvola Road, Fairview Road. I'm going to go ahead and show you where those are right there. About 30 minutes ago, we were looking, and then we had delays. Fairview Road here, Tyvola Road here, Sharon Road south, Sharon Road northbound. It's getting a little bit better, but they need you to continue to stay away from the area because, again, if you look at the congestion, as we go back to this view of the map right there, it's very thick around there. and they need as much access to that fire as possible. The good news again is that we're seeing some of the traffic alleviate there. So hopefully that can continue. They can continue to work on this fire, guys.
Well, they certainly have made a lot of progress here in the last 2 hours. We do want to go back out live to Brett Baldeck at the scene, just about as close as any of our crews have made it so far. Brett, what's it like out there? We can hear the alarms and just a lot of activity out there.
Yeah, NY and Jason, I mean, there are still fire crews arriving here, but the good news is the flames have been knocked down, but they're going to be here for hours trying to get out these hot spots. And I heard you guys talking about earlier, you were asking about the under construction, if construction crews were here. They were, and a lot of them are standing around us right now because they obviously evacuated. Obviously, we're checking with fire officials right now, medic, if they're able to get everyone out. We know there was that crane operator that we saw earlier who was walking back and forth on top of the crane. He's been saved, but now you have to wonder, unfortunately, if there were any other construction crews that were on the site and are still in there or weren't able to get out. So that's another thing that they're going to have to start searching once this fire is out. Let me step out of the way so you can get a look at the scene right now. As I mentioned, there's another fire crew that has just gotten here, and I mentioned before, this fire is 5 alarm, and we've seen fire trucks all the way from Plaza Midwood. You don't need me to tell you, South Park, Plaza Midwood are not close, so they're getting in as many resources as they can to get this fire out. Now, I'm not an expert. I would say it's under control at this point, but it's still on fire, so they're going to be here for quite some time. CMPD's chopper, Snoopy, has been circling all day. You can only think they're helping, kind of tell them, where their flames might be from the air. I'm watching right now, they're delivering some fans, big coolers of water, because you have to remember, it's hot out here. It's springtime, it's warm, it's humid. These firefighters are also probably maybe going to start need to take breaks. They're not going to be able to be in there and fighting this fire for hours on end. So there's a lot of moving parts to this fire other than that it's a fire. So we're going to stay on the scene, obviously. This is going to be something we're going to be talking about all day. But as Julian's been mentioning, I came in on Fairview Road, and I was lucky enough that the road was not yet closed. Do not come to Fairview. Do not come to South Park Mall. This area is just heavy traffic, closed roads, buildings evacuated. I can't tell you which buildings have been evacuated. Basically, just everyone around it. You can hear those fire alarms because the smoke was so thick earlier when this fire first started that it set off alarms from nearby buildings. I talked to an eyewitness who said this fire started out small and then it grew to a large fire in a matter of minutes. I talked to another man who said he talked to the construction workers who said at the time that they're laying down that liquid asphalt to lay down flooring or some sort of roofing. Obviously, that's something investigators would tackle, what caused this fire, but I think we know that a construction site has plenty of materials that can burn quickly, and that's probably why this fire became a 5-alarm fire so quickly. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Brett, thank you for that. We do want to get to video here of the fire, of the rescue operations. There is a crane operator up there throughout this fire.
This has been unbelievable. I mean, just the intensity and the size of this fire alone has been huge. But when we found out about half an hour ago that there has been a crane operator on this crane the entire time, completely changed just the mood of what was going on.
Well, it takes your breath away.
It does. And you're sitting and you're thinking, how are they still alive? The amount of heat that they must have been enduring the entire time this fire is going on. When and if are they going to be rescued? Well, they have been rescued. In the last 10 or 15 minutes or so, we did get word that they officially they have rescued the crane operator. Wow, I can't imagine what that person has gone through today. So we're thankful that that person has been rescued. We know this apartment complex has been undergoing construction. So the good news is that it doesn't appear to have been an occupied type of apartment building with residences, living there. We don't know how many workers were working there when this fire went off, and we still don't know what caused it, and we may not know for some time.
Certainly a priority, rescuing that operator up there, and the video just, makes you take a deep.
It does.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it, but I'm so thankful that person has since been rescued. They certainly have a story of survival to tell after living through that fire. The intensity improving meteorologist Andrew Brightman tracking the smoke here. And Andrew, the radar is picking it up.
Yeah, so that's one of the really interesting things. It's just such an intense fire. We could actually see over the past couple of hours here, and I'll kind of go frame by frame. This starts at about, we got reported around 9:11 is when it started. You can see around 9:30 was when the Doppler radar here at the airport, we call it the terminal radar, started to pick up some of the thick smoke and what we call reflectivity. And as we keep moving forward, really saw the fire really hit its peak in terms of intensity. You can see the deep green, even the yellow. It just shows how thick the particulate matter up in the air was as we were going from 10:15, keeping moving forward here, really all across southwestern Mecklenburg County. And you guys have been talking about the reports of ash falling down. Thankfully, though, it looks like the firefighters really have gotten a lot more of a handle on this, and we've seen basically what looked like rain, but obviously it's smoke, start to disappear off the radar here over the past 30 or so minutes. Obviously, they still got work to do, but they've made a lot of progress here. Also, talking briefly here on the air quality front, I've been looking at some of the monitoring stations. Our meteorologist, Lisa Raffa, actually did a story about air quality here in Charlotte not too long ago and pointed out some of the monitoring stations. The one issue that we do have is, I'll put this back in motion here. You'll notice where that plume of smoke is. The nearest monitoring station really wasn't in kind of the direct line. It's near Remont Road right there. That's basically where the monitoring station was. We've seen the air quality go down. The AQI, the air quality index, now up to 55, so there has been some decline in the air quality, but really the residents and the people that we're most worried about was a little bit farther south of there, along 485, along 77, some of the neighborhoods, Montclair South, Starmont Forest, a little bit farther off to the west here near Renaissance Park. That's where they really saw the bulk of the smoke, the ash falling out of the sky, and definitely where we probably have seen some dangerous air quality and probably still pretty unhealthy to be out in right now. But at least thankfully the firefighters have gotten more of a handle. You can just see it here on the radar, that giant plume of smoke between about 9:45 and 10:15, 10:30 this morning. So great improvement there, which is awesome. Being able to rescue that crane worker, thankfully, and now we're just they're just working to get every last little hot spot out with the fire. And Wyatt and Jason.
Andrew, we want to reset here. This has been going on now for about 2 hours, and this is what the fire looked like a little after 9:15 this morning when we first noticed this fire, and that firefighters were responding to what was initially called in as a 2-alarm fire.
And it didn't take long. Those flames that you see in the middle, it started what appeared to just be single flames, and within 10-15 minutes, we kept commenting on how quickly, there you go, how quickly the flames not only grew in height, but in size, and it spread from left to right. And the black smoke filling the air, people were calling in saying even from miles around, sort of soot and the ashes were starting to fall. There was just so much smoke.
And Jason, at the time, we did not know that there was someone in that crane that you can hardly even see through the thick black smoke. So just imagine being up there and calling for help.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine the heroism that went into rescuing that person, the stories of survival that they will have to tell, the trauma of what they've gone through this morning and surviving is incredibly scary. This is a picture from our Daniel Pierce, who was posting this on Twitter. Inside that circle, that's where the crane operator had been. We were talking to Julian earlier. A lot of these cranes have elevators that go up and down. Don't know if it was inoperable because of the fire, but at some point they were rescued. That is the good news, but it's incredible how they were there during the entire fire.
And we've got some more video that viewers have shared with us here. Just a look at the response and the smoke, people putting their masks on just because of the intensity of the smoke in the air and the particles and the ash. Our photojournalist, Matt Cruz, said that the ash landed about 2 miles away from this scene here. And it's just a sight to take in. Firefighters from around the city made the trip to South Park as part of this 5-alarm response. We're talking battalion chiefs, specialized personnel, reinforcement crews, rehab crews. And this video was recorded earlier from our drone. that gives you an idea of, there were ladder trucks stationed on every side of this fire just about to try to put water on the flames.
And that gives you a great perspective of where the crane, see the crane right in the middle of that shot. I mean, you can see it going up above. That's where that operator was the entire time. Firefighters from every angle pouring water onto this building, which has since collapsed. It looks like there we go. Now you can see the crane. To the right side, if you look at the top of the crane, far right side is where the operator sits. The crane operator has now been rescued, but to be there during the entire time is hard to even wrap your head around.
And this is why Charlotte Fire took a defensive approach, because of the intensity here. And this is video of that rescue and the crane operator
Look at that.
walking out. It is a miracle that that person was rescued today and really had a front row seat to the middle of this fire and the intensity.
I can't imagine the heat, just trying to breathe, and just, wanting to be rescued, which has since happened, thank goodness. Wow. And there are a lot of local businesses that are nearby. This is in a construction area in South Park. This is near the Ruth Chris Steakhouse, 7700 Liberty Road Drive. A multi-story apartment complex that was under construction. Right next door and right across the street, there's next door, as you see through the water, is the neighboring building that is also under construction. And so you would assume that firefighters, as we heard Brett Baldick mention, working to keep that building from just the heat and the smoke has been pouring to all the neighboring buildings, and you're trying to keep the fire from spreading. And all the alarms in every building nearby, Brett said, is going off. The smoke is pouring everywhere. You mentioned, Ann Wyeth, that there's kind of ash all over the ground within a mile or two radius from where this fire took place. We don't know what started this fire. We haven't heard anyone say that there was an explosion, so we don't know if a gas line was hit or what may have caused it.
But certainly a lot of combustible materials and flammable materials used in the construction process. And it's way too early to speculate about what may have started this fire, but you can guarantee that will be a priority. But that's something, Jason, that investigators can only do once the fire is out.
Sure.
Then they piece together based on the intensity and the burn patterns and the burn marks of what they're seeing to put it all together to figure out exactly what started this fire. But keep in mind, it is a weekday. This is an active construction site.
Right at the start of the workday.
Right at the start of the workday, although oftentimes construction crews get an early start on the day ahead of most people. As far as medic is concerned, we don't know. They're not going to say anything about potentially the extent of injuries until they've got all the information. Here. Are we getting some new information?
Yeah, we've got Mark, one of our editors here, producers, executive producer, is here. A couple blocks away, we're being told that firefighters are on the roof of another building a couple blocks away, working on a fire. We don't know. Do we know if this is connected to the original fire? We're not sure, but we're hearing a couple blocks away. Thank you, Mark. That firefighters are on the roof of another building, fighting some flames. We don't know if this is corresponding with the video that we're looking at here, or if these are firefighters taking a look at the original fire. Okay, it looks like they're just sort of surveillance of from up above of the fire that they're trying to put out. But it sounds like a block or two away, another fire that they're working on. And
this just speaks to how fluid this situation is this morning and the scene. There is a lot going on here this morning. I'm going to check in with Julian Sudor, who's keeping an eye on what police officers and firefighters are saying this morning and telling us just in terms of logistics and the neighborhood and the traffic.
Yeah, and Wyatt, we just actually got an update into the newsroom.
Julian, what was that again? We're working to get your mic pulled up here.
We actually just got an update not too long ago from CMPD as we've been talking about the traffic surrounding the area there, giving a place for people to get out of that area, right? So that more emergency officials can get in. And if we can pull up the speed map there, I can show you Park South Drive, CMPD is saying, is now back open. So as soon as we can pull up that map there and bring that in, I can show you guys exactly where that is in relation to this fire that we're watching right there. But Park South Drive now open. Originally, they had all these roads closed. Now, a majority of the roads around the area are still closed as we pulled it up there. This is not to say that people can start coming to the area. I want to make that very clear here. Even though CMPD is saying Park South Drive is open, I'm going to go ahead and show you where that is on our map right there. Park South Drive now back open, okay? Again, this is not saying that people can come to the area. They're still asking for people to stay away from the area, but as far as people who may have accidentally gone on Fairview Road and need a way to get out of there, Park South Drive is a place where you can go and get out. But again, the roads around the area there are still closed. You're seeing right there, Fairview Road, anywhere around the mall. Sharon Road is partially open there. You may be able to get around there, but again, avoid the area if possible. If you know somebody in South Park Mall, their best bet is to stay put, not to go out there, because the more people on the road, the more congestion. That means it's going to make it harder for emergency officials to get in. But again, Park South Drive now reopened according to the CMPD. So if people are heading that way and they need to get around that, that is one option. But again, do not head to that area unless you absolutely have to be. And why?
All right, thank you for that update, Julian. You can see from the live pictures here, this building is still smoldering, essentially down to the studs in some places. This fire started a little more than 2 hours ago at a construction site, an apartment building under construction. I think Brian is the photographer with this. If we could zoom in on some of those firefighters, they've got tents set up, coolers out there, along with fans. This is all in an effort to make sure these firefighters are hydrated and can rehab in between taking shifts, working this fire, the intensity. This is standard protocol for a fire alarm fire, or really any fire that's this large, because keeping the men and women of the Charlotte Fire Department safe is a top priority, which is part of the reason why the department shifted into a defensive mode pretty quickly here to fight this fire. That means they're not going to send anyone inside the building because they are so concerned that it could collapse, and that's what we've seen play out here this morning. You're looking also at the crane here. There was a worker up there, a crane operator, that Charlotte firefighters have rescued. Incredible story here of the heroes in this response. We do want to check back in with Brett Baldeck, down on the ground, about as close as anyone has been able to get here this morning. Brett, what are you learning?
This is the second fire.
Brett, we don't have your audio. I'm sorry about that. We're having some issues. There we go.
Do you got me now? Okay. I'm sorry about that. Live TV, we're trying our best here. So, talking to some witnesses that are around here, obviously South Park is packed with, buildings close together. I was talking to one eyewitness, had said he had to move his truck because it was so close to this fire that the debris was starting to fall down onto his truck inside one of the parking garages. I'll step out of the way. You were mentioning the tents are set up now for the firefighters to relieve them. They got water, they have fans. The medic mass casualty unit is here to help them. There are firefighters just kind of getting a visual on top of a building across from us, kind of looking over at the site right now. There's another woman here who's trying to get to her loved one who is in an assisted living home right across the street from here. She can't get to them. There is a Novant facility that I just talked to. All those workers are here. They are canceling appointments for the rest of the day because it is such a mess over here. I keep talking about fire trucks from all over the place. This is Plaza Midwood. We're just rolling up in front of us right now. I keep mentioning that they're here. It's not close to South Park, but this is an all-hands-on-deck kind of fire, obviously a 5-alarm fire. The flames have definitely calmed down since we first got here, but they're going to be on scene for hours today, just getting out these hot spots. The fire alarms, you may be able to hear that buzzing in the background. Those are still going off from neighboring buildings because the smoke here was so thick this morning that all the buildings surrounding it had smoke in them, so the fire alarms were going off. But we're still trying to wait for that press conference that you keep talking about because we want to know if everyone was able to get out safely. No one was living here, we don't believe, because it is under construction, but we do know there were dozens and dozens of construction workers that were here this morning doing their jobs because we saw them kind of all standing around here behind the yellow tape. But you can see the ladder trucks are still up here. They're going to be here for the next couple of hours. But I'll send it back to you guys unless you have any other questions. The good news I can say before I send it back to you is this is the most calm it has been since we got here at, let's say, I'd say it was 9:30 this morning. I'll send it back to you guys if you have any questions.
Well, Brett, that is certainly some good news, hearing that progress that's been made as firefighters work to put these flames out. We do want to get back to that information about a possible second fire in the area at the Rocket Mortgage building. It has since been evacuated. Debris, they believe, potentially from the original fire may have landed on the roof there. Our Taylor Young speaking to some of those employees. No injuries there. That's at Park South Drive and Royal Crest Drive, just to give you an idea. But there are hundreds of firefighters on the scene of this 5-alarm apartment complex fire, and you're looking at just a few of them there. Some of their colleagues managed to rescue a crane operator that was on the job this morning, caught up above the fire burning in the intensity here. Another look. We did have the chance to speak with the driver of one of those trucks there stuck. And Sam, we do have that interview. Oh, we do have that. We want to let you listen.
When I first got here, there weren't nothing going on. Everybody was working. And then when I got back, pulled down, backed in where I was supposed to unload the windows, I went to the bathroom, and I heard somebody holler inside the bathroom, said, "Get out of the building, there's smoke, there's fire." And everybody come running out, and it was right behind where my truck was supposed to be unloading at. And I have brand new windows to go in the building. They told me to move up and get out of here. I said, I can't get out of here. My truck is taller than the canopy between the parking deck and all. It ain't but 12.9. My truck's 13.6. It didn't get on fire till after I backed in. When I backed in, I heard somebody say some equipment caught on fire, and he couldn't get it out. And then it just spread like wildfire through the building. It went everywhere. All I seen at the back of my truck was black smoke gulfing coming out the doorway where they was going to carry the windows in.
It's just incredible. We're starting to hear from those on the scene and get more video into the newsroom shared from viewers showing the intensity of this fire. A little after 9 o'clock this morning, it did not take long for this fire to spread so fast through this apartment complex under construction here this morning. We are waiting on a news conference, an update from Charlotte firefighters to learn about how they were able to fight this fire, what may have started it, and also the extent of any injuries if they are there, and more importantly about the heroic rescue of the crane operator who was up there during this fire.
It changed our perspective of this fight to put the fire out the moment we heard that there was an operator in the middle of all this up on that crane, and the fact that they were there for an hour, maybe longer, during this fire, and they were rescued. It's probably been 45 minutes, almost an hour now that they've been rescued, but what they must have seen, what they must have felt and heard, and just the emotions and I would think the fear of what could happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. We do have our Savannah Rudisell. Okay, we're going to listen in to this construction worker.
Absolutely wicked. What was that feeling like? I mean, obviously probably very, very frantic and scary at that moment.
That's scary, you know. Mostly it's scary, yeah.
I mean, and I imagine you never thought, you hear some stuff like this, you never think that, oh, this is going to happen to me, right?
No, never. Yeah.
And you said your guys to make sure your guys get out. So you said hundreds of workers in there. So your guys, what kind of crew
We will definitely bring you more of that interview. A little hard to understand there just because of how loud this scene is given the fire trucks. This fire is still smoldering. There are hot spots firefighters are working to put out. Now we want to check in with our Savannah Rudisell, who is live along Fairview. Savannah, what are you seeing from your vantage point?
We're looking at right now is all of the extra police presence and extra officials that are out here trying to keep this area safe. I want to give you a look at just how many people are out along Fairview Road. And you can see that it is CMPD as well as we have a lot of police officials, a lot of fire crews, a lot of specialty fire crews here from Charlotte. From what we're looking at, there's probably at least 5 or 6 cars, fire trucks just along a single road. Medic 911 is here, a lot of their crews, even their mass casualty vans. So the reason why Fairview is closed, it's not only just to keep the traffic away from the officials who are doing their job, it's also in order to be able to park all of these other officials who are trying to keep the area safe and are operating as backup should anyone a little bit closer to the scene need it. I would say, I mean, there are dozens and dozens of CMPD officers who are out here. We've seen them now delivering water, not only to those a little bit closer to the fire, but those to each other, trying to block traffic, and the ones who are trying to maintain a safe environment here. Also out here with us are Duke Energy crews. We see Charlotte Water crews as well. So they're really taking a full approach here as they are trying to make sure that this area around the fire is safe and just completely away. Something that we've seen here is that in the blocks around the fire, it's hard to look in any direction without seeing fire officials walking around each other, talking, trying to communicate by either via walkie-talkie or trying to yell across different intersections as they're making sure that every single person that they have is accounted for and doing their best to keep everybody safe. Again, we're going to stay a little bit closer to the scene, and we understand that just about a block or so away from where we are, our Robin Kennedy is waiting for a media briefing. They're going to give us a little bit more information just as soon as they can, as soon as they have that information confirmed, and we'll keep bringing that to you live. And Wyatt, Jason, back to you guys.
All right, Savannah, thank you very much. Appreciate that. We want to bring in Waxhaw Fire Chief Greg Sharp. We realize that Waxhaw Fire Department is not directly involved with this fire scene and the rescue effort that's happening here in the South Park area, but we wanted to get a perspective as to the intensity and the severity of a fire that we've been watching for the last 2.5 hours. And Chief Sharp, are you with us this morning?
Yes, I am.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate that. I know we just called you moments ago. Can you kind of, from what you've been able to gather just in the last couple of hours, how difficult is a fire such as this happening in a well-populated area right at the height of business, when you've got construction materials that you're dealing with? How do you even attack a scene like this when you get the call?
Well, this is I would say, the most difficult fire a fire department has to try and fight. A wooden building under construction, which is basically an elevated lumber yard. The first thing you got to do is try and make an attack on the fire to stop it. And a lot of times that fails just because of the fuel load. And then you've got to back up and protect everything around it. With this fire, the biggest thing that was their concern was that crane operator. That was the life that was definitely in danger. And that crane had to be protected. And as I listened, the Charlotte Fire Department did one heck of a job to get that crane operator down out of that precarious position.
Can you describe, Chief Sharp, just what's going on behind the scenes in order to coordinate this 5-alarm fire and make sure that everybody is on the same page? I would imagine this is the worst case scenario that you train for and pray that you never have to respond to, but that happened this morning.
Yes, this is definitely a once in a career fire. And all the training that we do on the smaller fires, we balloon that out. That's why we have the National Incident Management System and our Incident Command System, is so we basically can break each part up into a smaller fire. And as I listened, they they broke it up into separate channels so that they could easily talk to each other, and then have almost separate incidents to make sure the crane operator was taken care of, and the exposures were taken care of, and the actual fire building was taken care of. It takes a lot of people to coordinate that.
And I can't even imagine, and it may be days before we're able to talk with that crane operator, but what they must have been experiencing high up above that fire. That just describe the amount of heat that operator must have been feeling in the middle of it all.
Yes, and I was assigned to Station 10 for a good while and worked on crane operation rescue. And that is one thing that crane operator never wants to encounter, because that is a chimney. The best part about it probably for him was he was high enough that hopefully the heat dissipated a little bit for him, but he was definitely hot and wanted to get out of that as fast as possible.
Well, and Chief, I would imagine the intensity of the fire. Do you take that into consideration when you think about the crane? And is there always the potential that it could collapse?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And that's one of the reasons they put a lot of water on that crane, to keep it from collapsing. Because with that kind of fire, that not only does that metal start to melt, but it'll start to twist. And then that crane is only designed to go straight up and down. And once it starts to twist, it can just topple over. So as I was listening, I heard them get water on it very quickly to protect that and keep the metal from twisting or failing. So that became one of the main operations that the Charlotte Fire Department undertook. And again, as I listened to it and watched it, they did one heck of a job.
From what you were listening to, was it a ladder rescue from a fire truck to get this crane operator down?
No, they actually had to climb the tower.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the ladders aren't tall enough. If I remember correctly, they said the crane was 160 feet in the air. And really the tallest aerial ladder in the fire service is about 100 feet. So they were climbing up to get him. But they kept it cool enough. It sounded like the crane operator actually started down towards them once it was safe to do so. So, yes, they had to climb all the way up after him to actually get him down.
And Chief, there are still spots that are smoldering on this fire. What will the rest of the afternoon into the evening look like for Charlotte Fire?
They will be sitting there for a long time, probably deep into the night, trying to extinguish all those hot spots. I don't know if you've, on a microcosm, if you had a fire pit in your backyard and cooked some hot dogs or something, when you go to put that out, unless you do a whole lot, it takes a while for that wood to finally burn down. And so this is just a massive amount of wood that's still trying to burn, and there'll be pockets for a long time. They'll be out there probably all night easily and into tomorrow morning.
And how careful do you have to be with the neighboring buildings? It appears there's construction next door, possibly across the street. Who knows what flammable, materials are there? I mean, do you obviously have to protect those areas, keep them cool as well, so that neighboring areas don't start up as well?
Correct. And that's exactly what they did. Is that first building was a loss, which became apparent quite quickly. They turned their efforts to protecting all those buildings around it. And that's one of the hardest things as a firefighter is we train to save everything that we can. And when you get to a building, especially that size, although it is under construction, that you can't save, it's hard to turn your efforts away from it and let that one burn while you save everything else. But that's really what they had to do today, is make sure the others didn't burn. And they had firefighters in multiple buildings around that to make sure they didn't catch fire and get other people out as it got hotter.
Well, and Chief, we talk about on days like today, or really any firefighters taking a defensive approach to fighting the fire. How important is that when it comes to protecting the lives of the men and women who are running to the flames? That's
very important. With something like this, it's unstable anyway because it's under construction, and with that kind of fire, it's just a matter of time before it comes down. It did. I mean, you all watched on the news, it collapsed. So it's a cautious attempt to try and stop it early, because as you saw, when you couldn't stop it early, it impacted a number of buildings. And of course, that crane operator had a bird's eye view of the whole thing. And that was the main focus, is to make sure that that person was safe. So again, he's the life hazard. And once firefighters start fighting, they become a life hazard. So it was a cautious initial attack, and then they had to back out and start protecting other buildings and make sure they were safe. And there were a number of, as they broke it up, there were people watching the building and making sure firefighters stepped back as it collapsed so that everybody was clear of those collapse zones.
We are speaking with Waxhaw Fire Chief Greg Sharp, who has spent time working in the Charlotte Fire Department area, now in the Waxhaw area, has been listening to scanners all morning, and really congratulating the efforts of the fire department with not only the crane rescue there, but just getting this fire under control as quickly as possible. This video that we're looking at right here, you can see to the left-hand side of the screen, there are fans, there are tents set up, there are coolers with water. How important is the health and the safety and taking breaks and hydrating and trying to stay cool? How important is that to firefighters?
That's paramount. I mean, you put on an air pack and the turnout gear, and you're talking an additional 80 to 100 pounds that you're wearing. It looks like it's 69 degrees out, but as you're walking through there and wearing all that gear, your body core temperature goes up very quickly. And as you're working that hard, I always said, a fire is the most labor intensive job I've ever done. And I've worked construction and all kinds of stuff. So getting the rehab, getting the water on board, getting some electrolytes back in, having medic there, having plenty of crews to rotate through is extremely important, because you can only work so hard before your muscles just say, we're done, we need a rest.
And Chief, when it comes to the investigation, obviously too early to speculate at all, but what will that look like? What are those investigators, what will they be looking for once the fire is out and the hot spots have cooled down to kind of point them in the direction to what may have started this?
They'll make an attempt, but unless there's somebody that kind of witnessed a problem or saw it start with that kind of damage, it's going to be hard for them to pinpoint and say, this is what caused it. With a building under construction, there's so many factors that can go into it. They will do their very best to find out what the cause was. But it's going to be extremely difficult with the damage that's there, because there's really nothing left to give them evidence to what happened.
And without knowing what sparked it or what the fuel was, what materials may have ignited inside this building, do you monitor air quality at the same time that you're trying to put this fire out, because you're in a heavily populated area?
Basically, we try and get everybody away, or shelter in place. Because like most of those buildings, as long as they weren't threatened by fire, being in an air-conditioned building, they are meant to ventilate everything out to the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. That'll keep people safe from the smoke. And the good thing, 69 degrees, relatively low wind, that smoke and everything rises up and dissipates into the atmosphere. So now at this point, they may be monitoring the surrounding buildings as they go to think about letting people back in to either work or that might live close by. But really, the air monitoring was probably one of their lower priorities before, because they had to get that fire out, and the crane operator was their top priority.
And Chief Sharp, will this be a fire and a response that departments, not only Charlotte included, but others look at in how they responded and how they were able to rescue this crane operator?
Oh, yes, because the first time that as we were and I started watching it or listening to it, I went back to, it might have been 15 years ago, Atlanta had a mill that was under renovation with a crane operator trapped at the top. And they basically had the same situation. They couldn't save the building, had a massive fire below the crane operator, and they ended up using a helicopter to pull him off the top of that crane, because they couldn't get the fire out below him and couldn't take him down the ladder. And the fire department did start calling around for helicopters as a plan B if they had to pick him off the top with a helicopter. So we learned from Atlanta's fire, and that was the plan B that I heard. But again, if you can bring him down that crane, it's built for them to climb down. It's better. So yes, we do learn from each other.
I can't imagine had that plan B had to be activated and rescuing from a helicopter, and thankful that we didn't have to go to plan B, but certainly plan A was for the crane operator to start making his way down the ladder area, and firefighters meet him on the way up. And what a valiant rescue effort while the fire is still being fought this morning, and so many firefighters have been pulled in from all over the area. They are taking breaks and switching out. I guess it depends on the severity of the fire. I know it's not as intense now, Chief, as it was 2 hours ago, but we see some firefighters looking and resting. Do you typically, depending on the fire, do you do 20 or 30 minutes on, and then you kind of go in rotation to give everyone a chance to catch their breath and to get out of that heat?
Yes, you are absolutely correct. Yep. Don't generally set a time per se, but we make sure that they get a break, probably no more than 30 minutes of work time, get checked by EMS if they need to, get some water. And when they say they're ready to start over again, then we find them another job to do and they get to work. These guys work very hard, and this is going to be probably the hardest day they've had on the job in a long time.
But it all goes back to training, Chief Sharp. How important is that so that these crews are prepared when they pull up for the unknown?
Absolutely. They train constantly there in Charlotte. If they're not down at the train academy, they're training at their station. Just like out here in Waxhaw, we train on something every day, and just something as simple as this, watching that fire and thinking about, okay, how would we have handled it? That puts something in your Rolodex, so you're not sitting there waiting and going, well, I got to fight that fire myself before I learn anything. That's almost as important as the actual physical skills of pulling the hose and throwing ladders and being able to do a rope rescue that like they had planned on attempting for the crane operator if he hadn't been able to come down the ladder.
We've been speaking with Fire Chief Greg Sharp with the Waxhaw Fire Department. Again, not a part of this fire situation today, but Chief, we know, as you mentioned earlier, you have spent some time in the Charlotte area. You have looked and studied multiple fire rescues in other cities, in Atlanta, like you mentioned before, where a crane operator had to be rescued from a helicopter. We thank you for your time this morning, giving us a perspective from a firefighter of just the safety issues that are at hand, the severity of what we've been witnessing for almost the last 3 hours, the heroics of the crane rescue, and we cannot thank you enough for what you and your crew do in just your community of Waxhaw, which happens to be my community, but all the other firefighters that are a part of this and that at some point will be rescuing and helping other people. Thank you for risking your lives, and thanks for your time this morning. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
You heard the chief say this is a once-in-a-career fire and the most difficult that you can fight as a firefighter.
It is unbelievable, and to hear another chief say that they are impressed at the speed at which they work and the heroics at which they got the crane operator, it just puts into perspective how serious this is of a morning this has been. Julian Sador is here in the studio with us, and this has been a traffic nightmare, and just the expanse of how wide of an area this has affected, Julian.
That's right, and we talk about letting these heroes work and being able to do these rescues. They need an ability to get close to where they need to go and work on this fire. And what we've been seeing, again, the roads around South Park Mall, if they're not closed, they're pretty much backed up. I'm going to show you here with our arrow on our speed map. You're looking at Sharon Road there. We've seen that be closed or close to closed in terms of that red, meaning cars are barely moving, okay? That's looking at the southbound side right there. Northbound, we have seen conditions improve over there. Again, police are asking you to avoid the area, but conditions are improving on Sharon Road. I do want to bring your attention over here to Park South Drive, okay? And that's important because if we remember where Savannah was a little bit earlier, that's that intersection where they have a lot of CMPD. They have the trauma vehicles there. They have fire trucks over there. Park South Drive reopened about an hour ago, and already we're seeing a lot of delays on there. That's not to say that you can head to the area. The reason why Park South Drive is open is to allow for people to leave the area, right? Because we saw when this fire broke out around 9/11 through 10:30, all of this area was red in terms of cars were just stuck. There wasn't any place for them to go. So now Park South Drive is open for people to leave the area. As far as the other delays here, if I zoom us out a little bit, just a different view of the same map. Again, that fire is where that caution sign is. We're seeing better conditions. Again, we saw a lot of reds earlier on Barclays Down Drive, a road that CMPD has asked you to avoid. Piedmont Road Drive, an area that CMPD has asked you to avoid Fairview Road. These roads are now seeing better conditions, which is good news because it means people are heeding the advice, the request from CMPD to avoid that area. The bad news is these other roads, Sharon Road now, we're seeing more delays. On Park Road, we're seeing some delays. But for the most part, things are getting better there. Continue to avoid that area because as people are leaving there, they need room to get out and emergency officials need room to get in. So conditions are improving there. But again, please avoid the area if possible, guys.
CMPD have been saying that for quite some time. Julian, thank you. I appreciate that. This is still a very active scene here in the South Park area.
And we want to get out to Savannah Rudisell standing by with really just a snapshot of that scene that we're looking at. Savannah?
Yeah, and as Julian was saying, most of the traffic congestion that we saw lately, again, well after this fire had started and some of the roads had closed down, a lot of that congestion was actually right around some of those residential areas. Some of the neighborhoods in South Park are really backed up, really congested with other people just who are trying to avoid the area, trying to find a way around it. So some of that navigation just around the entire South Park area in general is going to be a little bit slower. I want to give you a look here down Fairview Road. This is just about a block away from where the intensity of this fire is happening. You can see all of the different fire trucks, police cars. We have different sheriff's deputies cars out here as well. Almost the entirety of Fairview Road for about a 3-block length is just completely head to toe, just bumper to bumper with different fire trucks, all of them providing that support if needed. This is, again, part of the reason why Fairview Road is shut down is in order to have all of these emergency vehicles here on standby. This is what we're seeing, again, at Piedmont Road Drive South, but what we can see is we're probably about a block away from the most intenseness of the smoke. That smoke is blowing in our direction. You can still smell it, you can still feel it sting your eyes, but we are even still a little ways away from it. Down Piedmont Road Drive South, that's where we can see some of those tents set up, a lot more of the emergency vehicles there, more medic 911 employees, more of those emergency response crews. There's a little bit more activity down that way. This is where we can stay safely as of right now, but we've got crews all across this South Park area who, again, we're going to keep you updated as things get moving, as the more communication that we receive from officials as they work to continue to put out this fire and work to continue to make sure that every single person that they can is safe. So we're going to keep you updated here from the scene for the rest of the morning. Back to you guys.